Today we're going to be making mayonnaise, not none of your Hellman's mayonnaise. We're going to be using fresh ingredients to make our fresh hair mayonnaise. Now, as we can see, mayonnaise is our main sauce, but there's many different derivatives of a mayonnaise. Derivative meaning you're using your base sauce and you're making something else. And we're going to be showing that today. So before we can show the different derivatives, we need to teach you first how to make mayonnaise. Now, some of you may know me, and for those that do know me, you always know that I get you to make it by hand. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make it using the blender, okay? The Robo Coupe right here. So in here, we have 5 eggs at the moment, but it's going to be 6 because I'm going to show you how to separate the eggs. We also got 2 teaspoons of vinegar and also a teaspoon of English mustard. English mustard, good old English mustard. Okay. Also, what's going to be adding, we got 500 ml right here of a light corn oil, but we're going to be using vegetable oil. But do make sure whenever you do make a mayonnaise that you try to stay away from olive oil because it's too strong and the flavor would be too intense. Okay. So, as I was saying earlier, we got 5 eggs yolks in here. We do need 6. So in order to separate the egg, we have the egg. We know that egg is made up of 3 components. We've got the yolk, the thicker white, the ablum, and then we've got the thin, runny white. What we're going to be doing, our aim is to separate the egg just so we have the yolk. So this technique, very simple. Hopefully we're trying not to break that yolk. And we're just easing it and letting that white just run out. There's our yolk right there, in it goes. Okay? So we put that to one side. We're putting our Robo on. Do make sure health and safety always follows. But the great thing about these Robo Coupes is it will not start because they have something called an automatic lock. So the lock must be in place before it can start. So we're blending up those ingredients. Remember, we've got our egg yolks in there, we've got our white wine vinegar, we've got our English mustard as well. And we're just whisking it up just so it gets a nice blend to it. Now, whenever you're making mayonnaise, you've got to remember this. Blend fast, pour slow. Blend fast, pour slow. So your aim is to add drops by drop. So if you look here, coming closer, we can now see that we're getting a nice color to our egg whites. It starts to go pale in color, okay? So you can see it's the mixing that causes that whiteness to come about. So, now that we've got a nicer pearl color going on, we're getting the air into our mayonnaise. We're gonna slowly, drop by drop, start adding our oil. So what's gonna happen is it's gonna become thicker, and it's also gonna make it more whiter. Add it slowly, making sure we add and making sure it stays in. Oops. We got one of those funny jugs here. Those jugs that don't like doing what they're told. Seems like we do. We're going to try it with the left hand. There we go. There we go. A nice, steady stream. Now you can hear it, it's starting to become a bit more thicker in consistency. You can see that, come in, have a look. It's starting to get that thick in consistency as well. Now what our aim is to make sure it does not something called split. Split is the separation of the oil and the base, the vinegar and the egg. And they become 2 separate liquids, and that's not something that we want. We want it to be in motion, we want it to gel together. So, keep adding. You always got to keep eye on the consistency. If it comes too thick, it can easily cause the mixture to split. If it does become too thick, or it's getting too thick, we've got to make sure that we use a teaspoon of warm water just to thin it out to allow the correct mixture, the correct amount of oil to go into our mixture. So as you can clearly see, that's coming nice, thick consistency and coming also more whiter in colour. It's the blending that causes, the aeration that's going into it, that's causing that whiteness. So we're going to add, at this stage, we're going to add a tablespoon of warm water. Just a little bit. Don't add too much water, just a little bit. Just to thin it down a bit. Look at that. It's a nice consistency. It's almost looking like Hellmann's. So we're now at the stage where we're happy with what we've created. We're gonna put our base sauce into the bowl, right there. Gives you a perfect opportunity to take that closer look at our mayonnaise. Now, whenever we are making something fresh like this and using fresh egg yolks as well, you got to remember, it's not your Hellmann's. Your Hellmann's got preservatives added to it, it's got stabilizers added to it that allows you to last longer in your fridge. Now, because obviously we're making something with fresh egg product, we are looking at a shelf life of 2 to 3 days at the most. Okay? So you're gonna just take out the rest of this. There we go, whoops. And we're gonna clean down our section a bit. Clean down a bit, making sure that we're always working safely and hygienically at all times. So we've got our base sauce. Now remember, we're making the derivatives that come from mayonnaise. So first one we're going to make tartar sauce. Good old tartar sauce. Goes well with deep fried cod. Had it any fried fish, tartar sauce is your go-to sauce. Now tartar sauce is made up of capers. We've got our capers right there. Curly parsley we do have, or even flat parsley can be used. Let's get more capers out there. And also gherkins. So what we're going to do, in order for our fresh tartar sauce, we need to chop our ingredients. So let's start with our gherkins. So what we're going to do with our gherkins, want to look for a nice thin brimoise. But it depends, because at times when you make this sauce you can decide to make the ingredients a chunky texture, or you can use it to be a more finer texture. The choice is actually yours. It all depends what you're looking for and what your end product you're looking for as well. So as you can see, we're applying the correct cutting techniques. My hands shaped like a monkey claw, as I call it, where the fingers are curled, the thumbs at the back. I'm using it, and we're using our rocking action with our knife. The point of my knife always stays in contact with that chopping board. At this stage, we have a cut called our julienne, which is the thin slices, but we're going to be turning them into brimoise, which is our dice. There we go, we're going to get a nice dice going on. And once we've got our dice, we're going to get that into, how many gherkins we're going to do? We're going to do a few, just do that one right there. Get a nice there. So we get that into our bowl. In that goes. There we go. Then our capers. I'm just gonna roughly chop them, just so we can release their flavours, and it adds a little bit of more texture to our actual sauce as well. So just rough chopping it. The ratio of gherkins to capers, we're looking at about half to half. But again, if it's something where you're making for yourself, or you're looking to get a required flavour, you may choose to add more gherkins, or you may choose to add more capers. So we get that in as well. Our parsley, we don't want the stalks, so we're going to remove those stalks right there. Taking off the nice leaves, and we're going to again chop that as well. There we go. Nice rough chop. So as you can see, in there we have our capers, our gherkins, and our parsley. So we're gonna add, notice what I did there. I'm adding the mayonnaise to my ingredients. I'm not adding the ingredients to the mayonnaise. That's how we can make sure we get the right consistency that we are looking for. Mix, probably another 1 spoon. There we go. Making sure you taste. You can add some lemon juice as well, just to give it that little sharpness. But again, we have a nice tartar sauce. So there's our first one, tartar sauce. Next one we're going to be make is going to be aioli. Now what aioli is, it is a garlic mayonnaise. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be creaming or pureeing our garlic. So our garlic's been peeled already, and we're going to be chopping it real fine initially. Don't worry about it too much, because we are going to be running our knife back over it again. And as you can see, we run our knife back over it again. And then we're using this technique right here in order to get it more finer. It seems like we've got a moving chopping board there. What we're going to do, it's not good for me. Always thinking about health and safety. As you can see, make sure our chopping board is nice and secure. At all times, it is important to be thinking about health and safety. So, there we go, flatten it up. Make sure that chopping board's not moving no more. So, back to what we were doing, we're going for garlic puree. So first, we're just chopping it up, getting it as small as possible we can using this method, to then go to the next method of pureeing. So now we're at this stage right here. This case of our knife has done as much work it can do of the chopping. We're now going to go to the pureeing. Now, in order to do this technique, if you're left-handed, you'll be on the right-hand side. If you're right-handed, you're going to be on the left-hand side. But notice how my body is not straight on to the table, but parallel to the table. Okay? So again, notice how I'm not straight on, I'm parallel to the table. We're going to use a little bit of salt. We don't want to use too much salt, just a little bit. And the salt is going to act like a sandpaper. The technique we're using with the salt acts as sandpaper in order to help with that puree. So what we're doing, we're using our 3 fingers or 4 fingers right onto the blade. We're not using it on the actual sharp bit of the blade, but on the knife where it's no sharpness. Very safe to do so. And our handle on our knife, we now hold it with our thumb on the blade to add extra support. The blade is flat to the table, and what we're doing, we're lifting up the blade and we're doing that scrape back action. Lifting up, scrape back. Now we're going to do it, I'll work our way over. So we're not attempting to do all of it at once. It's little by little we're doing. And that scraping action, as you hear, it's with that thumb, make sure you push down, scrape back, push down, scrape back. And you just keep on working your way over. Now at times, you may need to go over it more than once. Just coming slightly off, let's just work with this bit right here. You may need to go over it more than once to get a nice puree. See right there? And as you can see, just going over that one more time, that's how we get that nice puree. There we go. Just like that. So, next sauce we're making, aioli. Again, this time we're gonna add our mayonnaise first, and then using our garlic then gets added to our mayonnaise. Don't want too much. You want the hintness, you want the flavour of the garlic coming through. Let's use this right here. No, I use this one. And just mix it through. Now there's some places where I remember when I was working in one restaurant, we used to add sometimes mashed potato, just a hint, and it helps with the thickness of it, creating a different texture as well. Now obviously, there's many different things that you can do to this garlic mayonnaise or this aioli once you have it, by adding a mixture of herbs, maybe some dill, maybe, it all depends what you're going for and what you're using it for. So there we have it. We have our garlic mayonnaise, or otherwise known as aioli. Let's just get some of our normal mayonnaise into its bowl. Our next one and final one we're going to be making is a good old Mary Rose. Now Mary Rose is a base for your good old-fashioned prawn cocktails, where you have it with the avocado and the prawns going through. There's also the variation of the Mary Rose is when you add brandy to the Mary Rose and it becomes a cocktail sauce. Now, a Mary Rose is quite simple. It's a nice colour, it's not too much. It's a blend of mayonnaise, ketchup, and it has to be an equal blend because then it creates that nice pink consistency. So, we're going to work with our mayonnaise that we have left over here. So bearing in mind, we said it's the equal amounts of mayonnaise to ketchup. Let's try that. Right there. Let's get this spoon out. Let's put that over there. We use this right here. So we're just mixing the two together. A little bit more of our mayonnaise just to go through it, so it becomes that more lighter pink colour. there we have it. Our nice sauce of mayo rolls. And that's us today.